on the East
I'm
Coast
sure
than they are
they
here in Tucson.
I'm sure they are.
On that one. But, you know, as I said, some of the East Coast versus Southwest differences. How do you pick the right collaborative professional?
Well, I think the same way you would pick any other professional. You do your research. Sometimes that means asking other people that you know, friends, colleagues, other people that you know have used collaborative divorce or mediation. You can start with our website or with the international website, which is www.collaborativepractice.com, and their biographies. And then you need to interview people.
If you can't get that, by the way, go to our website. We'll have it on there, or Rita's website,
Good.
which we'll show you, and you can get it there.
Good.
And you can get down faster. Or maybe you want to give it to them one more time. People may have had a chance to get their pencils out.
Okay.
Or get your pencils out, and we'll come back to that later on.
Okay. But the real key is to interview the professional, because there has to be mutual respect and mutual trust. And you're going to be working with someone through some very difficult times, and you want to feel comfortable with that person. So you might need to interview one or more people.
I want to move on to our other topic a little bit, but
Okay.
is there anything you want to add to collaborative that I haven't asked you that you want to say? And it's interesting, I guess the executive director, people should know, for the International Association is
in Phoenix. Is in Phoenix, yes. The headquarters of the International Academy of Collaborative Professionals is in Phoenix. Okay. So lots of Arizona connections. There's a thriving collaborative community in Tucson.
We interviewed actually Robert Michael Hirsch, earlier on in the show, and that's still available on YouTube for people who want to see it, who does collaborative practice here. I know there's collaborative groups here that practice, and there is a very active collaborative practice here, as there is throughout the country. I mean, it's been interesting
People
to watch
should check it out. It really is a good quality group here.
Anything else that you want to add about collaborative?
Well, just that it's growing, and I don't know if you want to talk about that, or if you want to
I think
segue
actually
to a different topic.
we'll do that. Well, I think, you know, as I said, I think you're an international leader. I know sometimes it's hard for us to believe that ourselves, but you're an international leader in collaborative practice. And why did you become a collaborative practitioner? I read an article about your emotional feelings,
my journey,
your journey on that. But I mean, I think that you know that is probably our segue into the future of divorce, because I think it's illustrative of why you switched into doing this. Probably tells a lot about where divorce is going.
I think so. I mean, I was a divorce litigator for 20 years and really burned out of it. I saw that it was destructive. It was beyond expensive. I remember just being heartbroken once when a client told me she had to take out a second mortgage on her house to pay my bill for the litigation. It had dragged down for a couple of years, and it was really driving her into debt. But it's so destructive for families. I just don't see much good coming out of litigation, and I was exhausted by being in that arena. So I heard about collaborative divorce actually in Vancouver, Canada. And it just felt right to me that there was an opportunity for people to sit down together like civilized individuals, supported by their attorneys, encouraged by their attorneys to negotiate, to be open, to be honest, to compromise. And I thought, that's the kind of attorney I want to be. So I made the switch.
That's what you want to do when you grow up.
Yeah, exactly, if I ever grow up. So I made the switch immediately. As soon as I learned about it, I got trained right away and just dropped the litigation practice entirely.
It's good. As I said, I think I come back to my law school days when I had a professor, Phil Schuckman, who taught civil procedure. And I think he said, once again, this is the only time you're going to get the Olympian view. And,
right.
And this, so let's talk a little bit about the Olympian view of divorce in terms of what's going on. And can you tell us a little bit about what changes that you've seen in divorce in your years of practice?
Well, in some ways it's gotten more contentious and more difficult, and I'm not sure what all the factors are. It's certainly still at about 50% of marriages end up in divorce, and the percentage for second marriages is even higher. There was a time in my practice when I was seeing a lot of young people who were married for under 3 years, and some who were married under 1 year who were quickly getting divorced. They hadn't even unwrapped the wedding gifts. And then I started seeing a segment of the population who'd been married for 30 years or 40 years, and their children were gone, and they were looking at how much time they had left to themselves, and divorce was the path that they chose. These tight economic times makes it very difficult. There's not much to fight over, and so people fight for every dime. And we've seen people fight over pets, who are very important to people. But if there's one dog or one cat, hard to share that attachment. So I think in some ways it's gotten very contentious. And on the other hand, I see people choosing mediation and choosing collaborative divorce. So they've made a decision that they're at least going to make their best effort to behave in as away as they can.
Before we go on again, let me get you back to the screen where you can get more information about our guest. Once again, or our website too, if you want to do it. Let me know. By the way, we've changed our logo here to the cactus heart. So if anybody is interested in any comments, I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say about that one. Back to a little bit of our Olympian view. We talked a little bit about. I mean, and once again, I think you have an unusual perspective in that you teach internationally. You teach throughout the country and doing that. So you've had a chance to see how divorce really is not just in one locale, but worldwide at that point. So in some of those changes also, I guess we talked a little bit about changes.
Right.
Pension. What are other issues that you think? Have you seen issues change that you have changed over the years, and how we treat things like pensions or joint custody or things like that?
Well, I think the economics of divorce have gotten much more complicated now with stocks and stock options and all kinds of things which have initials that I'm not going to try to remember or describe or explain, which is why we have financial professionals help us out.
You haven't the default swaps yet or not?
We're not doing default swaps yet, but we do other kind of swaps. I think the economics have gotten very complicated. We have child support guidelines, which we didn't have when I first started out. We have, at least in Massachusetts, we don't have a statute for alimony, but we have some case law and we have some custom. And I know that in other jurisdictions like Texas, there is no alimony. No matter how long people have been divorced, there is no alimony.
Texas also has jury trials in some cases, I believe.
They have jury trials, and Georgia has jury trials for divorce. I think what's changed on behalf of children is the understanding that children do well when both their parents do well, and that the involvement of both parents in their lives after divorce is really best for children. There's actually been some study done that children do better in school when their fathers are more involved in their lives. So when fathers come to those parent-teacher conferences, when they help their kids with homework, when they show a real interest in their kids' academics, the kids do better after
found, by
divorce.
the way, I used to find in some of the divorce cases that the fathers sometimes who weren't involved earlier on, once the divorce takes place, become more involved, and then sometimes the wife is resentful that he was involved now.
Right, often.
And why is that? Do you have any sense of why that is?
Well, it's really peculiar. I think what happens is that in most marriages, like in most partnerships, partnership responsibility gets assigned. Maybe in an unspoken way, maybe in an explicit way, where one person's going to be more responsible for the finances and the other more responsible for the children. And when the person is less responsible for the children, they're less involved in those details. And so they don't do the doctor appointments and the dentist appointments and the play dates. And then all of a sudden, when they realize that they're going to be less involved in their children's lives on a permanent basis, they kind of kick up. And they really shift into gear, and they want to find ways to spend more time with their kids and to be, I think, more credible parents to the kids.
Actually, one of the changes, I think, have you seen a change from sole custody to joint custody over the years? And that sort of ties into what you're saying, because it seems to me if the father has joint custody, he's going to be more involved. Have you seen that at all? Or?
We've seen a lot of that. There used to be, 20, 25 years ago, a presumption of sole custody, both legal and physical, to the mother, especially when the children were young. Now, at least in Massachusetts, we have a presumption of joint custody to both parents, unless there's some very unusual circumstance which would make that a danger to the children. So we start with the presumption of joint custody, and then we design a parenting plan, and so that the children can go back and forth between the two households in a way that's healthy and hopefully doesn't make everybody crazy, because I've seen some parenting plans which have so many transitions that I think if grown-ups had to pack up their suitcases and their briefcases and remember what they were wearing the next day on an every other night basis, I think those parenting plans wouldn't look so crazy.
So I used to, as I prepare the questions, we talk about this a little bit in advance, but I always love it when I do the interview and I think of things. And one of the things when you said Massachusetts that occurred to me is that Massachusetts has health insurance, which is very different, really, than the rest of the country.